Well, hey everybody, this is Alicia Purdy, and you are listening to Living Out Loud on the Alive Radio Network. Thank you for joining me today. If you're watching online, you can already tell there's a little something different about today's episode. I'm broadcasting live from my car. There was a little bit of a scheduling snafu, and I haven't been able to make it into the radio station today, and I have somewhere else to be. I actually almost didn't do the show today. I was thinking, because of the scheduling snafu, I thought, you know what, just skip the show, forget it, nobody even watches this show anyway, whatever, right? The main reason, by the way, I just apologize. I have no idea what's going to happen in the background of me if you're watching live. I am in an industrial parking lot and business as usual is taking place. I almost didn't do the show today because I thought to myself, you know, what's the point? I've got so much else going on. Nobody will even miss it. But at the same time, this morning, as I thought more, in fact, I'll go beyond that. I actually said to myself after the snafu and all the things had happened, I actually said to myself, you know what? Why don't you just quit everything? Why don't you just quit? Just quit the show, quit the radio station, quit your dreams, just go back to bed and take a nap. And I came this close to doing that. And then I thought, you know what? I felt like the Lord is probably the voice of the Lord just saying to me, Alicia, just keep going. However it has to be done, just get it done. Just figure it out. So here I am sitting in my car. It's a rainy day. I'm about to go into the gym after this show is over. The last couple of days, let me tell you, have felt like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that is why I need to be on the show today. Because for me to not do today's episode would be a defeat. So even if this is the most boring episode you've ever heard in your entire life, which it will not be, don't worry, it is going to be a win. Because Satan has tried to triumph over me. And for just a smidge of a time, I did let him do that. So anyway, you know, I'm going to be 43 tomorrow. If you're listening on air later, my birthday is October 27th. Today is Monday the 26th. And I'm going to be 43. I earned it, no problem. I have no problem telling people my age whatsoever. I'm not ashamed of it. I have earned every one of these 43 years. And there is something so different, I've said this before, about being in your 40s than in your 30s and certainly than in your 20s. I don't think you could pay me to go back to my 20s, although I wish I had her body. But I don't want her brain, that's for sure. I was a totally different version of Alicia back then. Certainly, definitely more of Satan's handmaid than I try to be nowadays. So anyway, welcome to Living Out Loud. I certainly seem like I have a case of the Mondays. You know, when Satan comes after me, and when he comes after a lot of people, he tells them things like, maybe you're worthless, you're, you know, just things that Satan says to us. He puts doubt in our mind, and we all have our points of defeat, right? I know that I have my points of defeat for sure. One of the points where Satan tries, and I'm airing this, let me just tell you, I'm airing this today because I will not let the enemy play in my head. So one of my points of defeat is Satan tells me, nobody cares, you're wasting your time, shut up. And he's been trying to silence me for my entire life. And sometimes it does defeat me. I do get silenced by, sorry, I'm going to keep checking my reception if you're listening online, just because I'm in my car and I don't know what's going on. Satan does try to silence me and God's given me a voice. And so I think we all have to find that area in our lives where, here's how I think of it. The area that you struggle the most with hating yourself or disliking something about yourself, that is probably the point where the Lord wants to actually use you the most. And that is why it is attacked the hardest. And so my entire life, people have been telling me to shut up. And along the way, of course, I have not shut up, actually. People wish I would, but I have not. Along the way, what it has done is it actually has made me louder, but in a bad way. And God has had to shape that in me to teach me to use my voice for him and in a good way and to speak the words that he's given me. And I really believe the Lord has given me, the Bible says, the tongue of the learned, that I might know how to speak a word to him who is weary, a word in season. And I talked last week about Barnabas and how Satan had oppressed me for so many years with the fear of being Barnabas. And then the Lord showed me a message about the beauty of who Barnabas really was and how he's given the gift of encouragement. He's possibly one of the writers of the writer of the book of Hebrews. And so, man, what a lie I had believed. So if there's something negative about yourself, let me just tell you, it most likely, the reason why you hate it so much is because the enemy has attacked you in that area. And there's a point in yourself that you hate about yourself that the enemy has attacked. that God really needs you to use. And so whatever that is, I'm going to challenge you in that today. Look at yourself, see what it is that you just can't stand about yourself. And then ask the Lord to show you, okay, so obviously, you know, the Lord isn't speaking those things over you. So obviously that's the voice of Satan. Why is he attacking me so hard in this area? And how can I use this weakness to pursue Christ and then to take others along with me and lead the way? So that's how I try to think about it. Anyway, so death by 1,000 paper cuts has been my day the last few days. And let me just tell you, I'm just going to, like I told you, I'm going to air these grievances because they've been bouncing around in my head, and I will not let the enemy triumph over me by trafficking in darkness. So this morning, let me just give you this morning. Actually, I'm going to set my watch real quick so I don't run over my time. So this morning, I had a difficult morning. I started with, I made myself a healthy bowl of oatmeal and made my kids breakfast, and life was going really well. And then all of a sudden, I smelled the funkiest smell. And I'm like, what is that stinky smell? Well, guess what it was? It was cumin. I did not pour cinnamon on everybody's breakfast. I dumped cumin all over our oatmeal, gagged me with a spoon. And then I was super mad about some other things, just really dumb stuff, nothing that even needs to be aired. But put on my workout clothes because I had to go to the gym. And I thought, you know what? My husband said to me, you ever have a spouse who says to you, like, we need to do something, but really they mean you need to do it? So my husband said, we really need to clean the bathroom, or like, we really need to scrub those toilets. So I was like, oh, message received loud and clear, pal. So I was rage scrubbing, actually, the bathtub this morning, and I was rage scrubbing the toilet. And while I was rage scrubbing, and I mean, like, I'm like, I'll show you scrubbing that toilet. I'll scrub this toilet. I will scrub this thing so hard. I'll put your dinner on. You want to eat off the toilet? Want it that clean? Fine. I'll put your dinner on the toilet. You can eat. Anyway, I was thinking all kinds of nasty things this morning when I was rage scrubbing. And as I splattered my favorite workout plants with bleach and got bleach flecks everywhere. And then I looked in the mirror and realized my hair was doing something extremely funky and I need a haircut. I found a bunch of grays on the top of my head, and my tooth has been hurting for days to the point where it feels like it has its own heartbeat. And every time I move my head, it goes, whoa, 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 right? So I'm looking at my tooth. I'm inspecting my tooth in the mirror. I'm like, why does this hurt so bad? I can't figure it out. And as I do, on the top of my mouth, I see, oh, I have a raging brown cavity that looks like I have some kind of weird tooth rot. Do I even have dental insurance? I mean, like, and the enemy was just jumping all over me left and right, you guys. And so here I am sitting in the rain. I misscheduled my day, and I'm doing Living Out Loud from my car. So welcome. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that. You know, do you guys ever watch Seinfeld back in the 90s when George Costanza's family didn't want to celebrate Christmas, and they created like a fake holiday in lieu of Christmas, and it was called Festivus. And it was called Festivus for the rest of us. And on Festivus, one of the things that you did instead of a Christmas tree is you got like a metal pole. But anyway, you'd stand around the pole and you would air your grievances. So that was the nature of Festivus for the rest of us. I was thinking about that this morning. I thought, I'm going to air some grievances just so the enemy doesn't have airspace. I'm just going to get it out and move along. So I need a haircut. I got some grays. My tooth is hurting. I dumped cumin on my food this morning, splattered bleach on my pants, and that was just the good part. So here we are. Praise the Lord. He is good. So let me just give you a couple things I want to talk about. I do want to talk about actually the importance of October 27th, which is the day Alicia was born 43 years ago, which is tomorrow. But let me just tell you, so we're here on Halloween. Full disclosure, I'm going to turn my camera a little if you're watching. See that? There's an orange balloon sitting creepily behind me like it's watching me. We have an orange Halloween balloon in the car and a black one in the house. We don't actually celebrate Halloween, although clearly we're open to receiving Halloween items into the home. This is Halloween season. I've talked before about how I could never have a birthday party for myself that involved costumes because my birthday was so close to Halloween. I came from the kind of family where everybody hated us because we were passing out, if we passed out anything, which usually we did not, we passed out bags of popcorn and apples, tracts. Oh Lord, tracts. You passed out. In fact, they were like bad tracts from the 70s, like with weird, creepy pictures of Jesus, like the gay blade. I know if my parents are watching, they know exactly. And if you're a certain age, you know what I'm talking about. So we don't celebrate Halloween, and we went to a Halloween event yesterday at my children's gymnastics studio because I wanted them to have the fun of the gymnastics. And I said, look, you guys, the fact is this, we don't dress up for Halloween. Just not something that we do. And if anybody asks, which they probably won't, why you're not wearing a costume, all you need to say is, I'm just not. End of discussion, right? This is the culture of staying in your lane anyway. So we went, and it was a lovely time was had by all, and we'll be doing some things with our church, and the kids got candy, etc. But my daughter has been coming home, my youngest daughter, my kindergartner. She's been coming home, and she's been taking me aside and confessing her sins. This is a new thing for her, telling me all the bad things she does throughout the day. And so, I mean, she's 5, right? How bad can it get? Well, so she came home the other day, and she came up to me, and she said, I want you to know that I sang a song today in school, and it was about Halloween. And I was like, okay, I understand. Sometimes we have to, eat the meat and spit out the bones. And so she was like, no, I want you to understand. I liked it. I just had to keep a straight face. I was like, oh, well, that does take it up a notch. Well played, Satan. And so I was like, okay, I understand. It's okay. It was just like a little song, like, knock on the creepy door and it opens and there's a spider and all these. It just was stupid, right? And so, but I thought, what kind of a world must my daughter live in that she's afraid to talk about Halloween or, live in the world? I was afraid of Halloween as a kid. I thought it was like the devil's birthday. I really thought, and I grew up out in the country, and we were told we couldn't go out at Halloween because it was the vernal equinox. And that's when the Satanists that lived in our area, probably near our house, and have been watching, would kidnap young children or their pets and cut off their paws and lay them like an X on your front porch. That's how I grew up, you guys. So I was terrified of Halloween my whole life. And so now somehow I've conveyed that to my daughter, even though I think I'm a lot more chill than that. Anyway, so my daughters are in the you guys I've talked about on my show, the government indoctrination gulag that we're in right now with the public school system. My kids are coming home. Some of their teachers have communicated to them, whether overtly or not, that they would like to be the people who help them solve their problems so that they don't have to bring their problems home. Now, that is a red flag. That is a really subtle indoctrination way of the school trying to take over and perceive what's going on in your home and control through your children. I mean, even Hitler knew that. You take care of the youth and you've got the future locked up, right? So my kids and I, our family is not the kind of family that allows those type of secrets between parents and children, even if they're bad secrets, right? And so if we want our kids to be able to tell us anything, so we have to work through this stuff because our kids are being told things like, evolution, and that God is a construct. If he's even alive at all, how can you prove it? How can you know? And science and whatever it is. And I say science, you guys, with a grain of salt, hashtag. Of course, I mean, air quotes. Of course, I believe in science, but I believe that God is the originator of everything that is scientific, and we discover it, and that we do our best to interpret science within the framework of God. We do not interpret science outside of the framework of God. And when we do, we go off to one side. I just read the other day, actually, that they were talking about life that they found on other planets. They were talking as though they had found life on other planets. But then and that's just clickbait, because when you click on it and you read it, it turns out it was a statistical likelihood. It wasn't actually any confirmed science that you can observe or see. And I was like, what a load of... Well, anyway, I don't say those words on the air because my parents are watching. But anyway, I wasn't going to swear, by the way. I was going to say crap. My parents hate that word, and I try to be respectful. Anyway, all of that to say, the Lord really ministered to me about my kids because, I've had a lot of conflict with the school system lately. And boy, that is a machine that I am not going to easily defeat, and nor do I feel called to. But as we began to dig deeper into what was going on with my daughter and coming up against teachers and principals, someone had pulled me aside and said, look, the fact is this. No teacher's afraid of losing their job. They're all part of a union. It's a huge racket. They're the largest mob. They're the largest mafia in the world. There's no way, no matter how hard you complain, anyone's really going to do anything about it. I'll have to go to the Supreme Court. I'll have to file a lawsuit. Do I really want to do that? Or should I just teach my daughter to be in the world and not of the world? Well, that's what I'm going to do. So, I was really worried, though. I've said this before. I was really upset. Should I have done this? Was I selfish to homeschool? All these different things as my daughter is facing down the darkness of the world. But the Lord really ministered me from one of actually my favorite scriptures, which is Philippians 4:8, which is, do not worry about anything, but pray about everything. And with thanksgiving and prayer and supplication, make your requests. It doesn't even say your needs. That's what's really cool. It doesn't even talk about your needs. Make your requests. Well, I request that this bully go away, right? I make my requests known to God, and that's what I've been doing. And the Lord ministered me because that day, somebody on Facebook actually posted that same scripture, and then a song came on my playlist randomly that was singing that same scripture, and I was like, all right, Lord, I'm listening. So all that to say, God is faithful. What a series of events has been going on lately, but here we are. I do want to say this. I met last week with, it's coming soon to the live radio. I met last week with Pastor Victor Harris. He's the program director at Albany Adult and Teen Challenge. And we talked about Black Lives Matter and social justice issues. So I won't give anything else away about that. But I highly recommend that you check it out. Go to a live page, like the page, follow it, because when we post it, you're going to want to share this. Actually, you might not want to share this depending on your audience. I have lost a number of friends over the BLM issue because I refuse to budge. Boy, the world does not like when they push against you and you do not budge. I'll tell you that, because in Japanese, they have an old saying that says, the nail that sticks up must be hammered down. Anyway, the thing with Black Lives Matter, I will say this. I just talked about it in length before, so I won't go into it. But I do want to say, speaking of Black Lives Matter, right? We have some friends who shared yesterday at our church during the like offering portion of church, and they were from Africa. They were from what used to be known as Rwanda. If you guys remember, in Africa, in the 90s, there was something called the Rwandan genocide. And for us in America, yeah, there's like a movie, Hotel Rwanda, right? You can watch that. But actually, well, whatever. Take it as it is. You've been warned. But anyway, so you can watch Hotel Rwanda, and yeah, we see it in the movies, whatever. But these are people that actually lived through the Rwandan genocide. And their worship was just so exuberant. And if you go to City Harvest's Facebook page, the service from yesterday is on there. It's like halfway through the service. You can watch some of the testimonies they give. And some of these people are my personal friends. They're in my life. And they were talking about, my dad had said to them, why are you worshiping today? And my friend got up and said, during the war, my home was raided, and my parents were tied up in front of me and set on fire. And I was forced to watch my parents burn to death. And she said, and she was crying when she was talking about it. These are her parents. She was 15 years old at the time. And she was talking about the faithfulness of God to see her through that dark valley. It doesn't get darker than that. It doesn't. This is the stuff of horror movies. This happens in real life. And then another woman got up and said, I watched my friends and my family and their children be slaughtered and chopped with machetes and shot with guns and raped and tortured. I watched it. I watched it happen with my own eyes. And she said, and now I'm here. And I look at my own sweet children and I thank God for his goodness. My children are safe and they're alive. And boy, what a challenging thought when we feel like we have nothing else to look forward to in life, when we feel like life has gotten so hard, and, I'm talking this morning about death by 1,000 paper cuts and, whatever else we've got going on in our lives. Boy, oh boy, what a reason to worship. And if you can find a reason to worship the goodness of God when life is showing you every evil thing it has to offer, and you are walking physically through the valley of the shadow of death, there is a power inside of you that is coming from an untouchable place that Satan cannot defeat you, and you have made a show of him openly with your testimony. The power of God in that circumstance it thundered down on me. And, in contrast, so you're going to hear some car behaviors because I'm checking the time. Like I said, hey, we're just being fluid today. We're just figuring it out, right? We're just doing... we're doing our best today with what we've got going on. But anyway, all that to say, I was watching, reading an article about Stevie Nicks, Stevie Nicks had an abortion, okay? She came out and said the reason why she had an abortion was because if she hadn't had her abortion, she would not have been able to give Fleetwood Mac and its music to the world, right? Okay, so, my goodness. So, maybe her child would have been the one. Maybe the reason why we haven't cured cancer is because Stevie Nicks murdered her unborn child. Maybe the reason why we haven't had significant breakthroughs in this and that is because Stevie Nicks murdered her unborn child so that you could listen to Fleetwood Mac. And if it comes on the radio, easy listening. What a justification for the murder, but whatever. She acted like Fleetwood Mac was God's gift to the world. Actually, that isn't true. Jesus Christ was God's gift to the world, not Stevie Nicks, and certainly not Fleetwood Mac. I'm not a big fan myself, although I did learn one of their songs on the guitar when I was early learning to play the guitar. So full disclosure there. but people have the justifications for the reason why they live the way they do, they make the decisions they do, and this is how she reconciled her abortion. She was grateful for the ability to get an abortion so that she could bring Fleetwood Mac to the world. It was an unbelievable, what an unbelievable thought process that was to me, to realize that there are people who really think that way in the world. If you didn't watch already, go over to Live Radio. Check out our little side program we have called The Matter at Hand, where I sat down with Bishop William Love, who's been standing against the tide in the Episcopal Church for the LGBTQ community when they affirmed gay marriage in the church, and he said no. He became the lone holdout. Well, just yesterday the news came in that Bishop Love has resigned his position with the Episcopal Church, and that's a difficult end to that story, because we were all rooting for him to triumph in adversity. But this might be the path to triumph for him. I don't know, because that path is between him and God. I know that he's a man of prayer, worship, consideration of God's methods, and God's will for his life. And so if he saw fit to resign, then I believe that that's the path that God has laid out for him and that he's following that path. But it was hard, because we all want to stand up, right? We all want to be the person who stands and wins. We love a good underdog story. And then to find out at the end, sometimes you do lose. Or again, this could be a win for him. I don't know, because I haven't connected with him on that yet. But I personally was like, man, I wish that there was still some fight there, and that we could take this all the way to the top. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm really a firm believer that I had just finished a blog post actually in the Way of the Worshiper. It was called, "But Did You Die?" And so if Satan did not literally kill you, which he is not legally allowed to do, you are alive to fight another day. So sometimes the way that you win in this moment is that you retreat. And sometimes the way that you win in this battle is that you simply stand. Sometimes the way that you win the battle is that you charge ahead and you storm the gates of hell and do all these things. But you have to be led of the Lord in those areas, because not every battle are you called to fight, and not every battle are you called to stand, and not every battle are you called to retreat. You really got to have the mind of God when you are facing down a giant, because we were talking this morning with our girls in devotions about David facing the giant. My husband made a good point. When you think about the giant and you think about the 5 smooth stones, right? I see them as like river rocks in my head. But really, if you think about what kind of stone David probably put in there that would sink into Goliath's head, more than likely, it was the size of a bullet. It was probably smooth, and it was probably elongated, that was shaped like a bullet. He probably found that, and that's probably how he killed the lion and the bear. He didn't, the Bible says the rock sunk into his head. It didn't just knock him out or even crack his skull, because you can survive a concussion. I really believe that what went into the head of the giant was a tiny little bullet, was a rock that was like a bullet. And so anyway, we have to discern what kind of fight the Lord wants us to have in the battles that we're facing. And so we wish our best certainly to Bishop Love. So are you guys, I'm going to go vote after this show and after the gym and all these things I have to do. I'm actually going to go vote. I'm going to take my son. It's his first election he'll be voting in, so I'm very excited for that. And boy, you're going to hear a lot about this being a historical election, and it really is. In fact, just today, Joe Biden, or yesterday, was telling everybody, do you really want 4 more years of George? I mean, George, wait, 4 more. He repeatedly kept asking people if they wanted 4 more years of George. Everybody was completely thrown. Now, you're not going to hear a lot of that in mainstream media, but it is out there. You really have to follow the right news sources. You can't watch, the New York Times or CNN or whatever. They're not going to report on that kind of stuff. But the fact is, if you don't want 4 more years of George, vote for Joe Biden. I don't even know what I'm saying. Now I'm having Biden-itis. Anyway, so let me give you a couple things in my remaining time here. It is my birthday. I share a birthday. I'm going to give you a couple of things I share a birthday with. Okay, so let me just give you a couple fun facts. I'm actually just looking at time. I've got like 3 minutes left. It's hard to get you guys to stink at math bad. I really badly don't math well. And I'm sitting here trying to calculate how much time I have left. My husband maybe could send me a little text. Boy, I'm just flowing today. In fact, I have to show you my little friend I brought with me. I keep it in my purse. This little doll, I'm going to cover up the word. It rhymes with slam it. Slam it doll. And so when I'm having a struggle, I take this doll and I go like this with this doll and I get mad. I keep it in my purse because you just never know when you're going to have a case of the Mondays. And my birthday's tomorrow. So anyway, I have a doll. It has a little poem on the front, but I'll just tell you right now, it rhymes with the word slam it. Anyway, so My birthday, October 27th, 1917, 20,000 women gathered to march in a suffrage parade in New York City. What? I'm going to go exercise my right to vote today because somebody somewhere, some math number years ago, marched in a parade. Well, hey, guess what? I have no problem with that. In fact, you know what? Suffrage actually just means the right to vote. That's all that suffrage means. So men already had suffrage. And women now have it, which is really exciting. So thank you, women everywhere. I'm sure that wasn't easy. I appreciate your efforts. And now I'm going to go do that. So E.T. came out in October 27th on video, 1988. I was not allowed to watch E.T. Had too much swearing in it. No, actually, to this day, I've never seen it. And let me give you a couple other things with my remaining time. Ooh, I have so much to get to. All right, I'll give you this. So 1955, Rebel Without a Cause, the movie starring James Dean and Natalie Wood, came out. I was thinking today, if they remade it, what would they call that? It's about, I never saw it, actually. So it's about the emotionally confused suburban middle-class teenagers. Okay, so we're going to call that Snowflakes Without a Storm. That'll be the movie if it were made today. 1961, the American Basketball League starts to play. Howard Stern's radio show. Woo, 1993. I was not allowed to listen to Howard Stern, but don't you know that that's what I certainly did. He was on at 6 a.m. before my parents were up. Boy, you guys, we just, you know what, if somebody wants to just break the law, break the rules, and sin, there is nothing stopping them from doing that, is there? They really will always love will find a way, and so will sin. So I share a birthday with, John Gotti, head of the Gambino crime family. That's pretty righteous. Theodore Roosevelt and Roberto Benigni. So Roberto Benigni, fun fact, he's an Italian director, the director of my all-time #1 favorite movie. Fun fact about Alicia. What is my favorite movie of all time? I have a giant poster of it hanging in my house, actually. In Italian, it's an Italian movie. It's called La Vita è Bella, which means life is beautiful. It's a World War II epic film. Highly recommend you check it out. Let me just give you a couple last things with my time here. So I talked last week about how I do some keyword searches. And keyword searches are interesting because it really shows you on Google what people are searching for. And one of the things I've discovered is how much people are actually hurting in this life. And they're searching for things. Here are my most popular searches. As the deer pants for water. Why did Jesus weep? What does it mean to deny yourself and take up the cross and follow Jesus? What do I do when the enemy comes in like a flood? And think on these things. In fact, I brought with me, let's see. All right, you guys, I started at 12:47 and it's 12:18 now according to my clock. I actually don't know how long I've been broadcasting for, so I'm going to just trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not on my own understanding. And it's been that kind of day. So I'm just going to share with you the last word. So that people have been searching for this. What does it mean to think on these things? And I'm going to give you this. So from Philippians 4, what does it mean to think on these things? Whatsoever things are true, seeking truth, understanding truth, how to apply truth, allowing truth to change you. Think on these things. Whatsoever things are honest. That means confronting the lies. Remember, I said at the top of the show, confronting the areas where the enemy has attacked you. For me, it was I talked too much. and then realizing that he's attacking you in that area for a reason. Whatever that is, where you feel like you've fallen short. Wherever it is where you feel like, I wish I could change this about myself. Well, if it's sinful, you need to change it. But if it's something that God needs to hone in you, he wants to use it. And so stop letting the enemy attack you and make you turn on yourself. Okay, so whatever things are honest. Confront the lies that you tell yourself. The lies about your identity. The lies about your situation. The lies about others. Being honest with yourself about what needs to change. Whatsoever things are just, crying out for justice, defending it for your family, seeking and learning what it means to live justly. Micah 6:8-10. He's shown you shown you, O man, what is good. What does the Lord require? Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And whatsoever things are pure, think on these things. Okay, so the word, meditation of the word, assuming somebody has pure intentions, giving them the benefit of the doubt, turning intentionally away from things that are impure. Okay, so think on these things. Whatever things are lovely, turning away from ugliness. Maybe that's the news for you. Maybe it's other people's conversations. Whatever things are good report. Okay, the things that bring hope, the things that bring life, things that are good report doesn't mean that you can't have a hard time or that you can't be a real person. What it means is that you intentionally focus on the hope in the situation. If there's any virtue, Paul wrote, if there's any praise to be had, anything redeeming, any redeeming quality about the situation, anything good to say, think on those things. So that's really a choice we all have to make. So today has been, this last few days, death by 1,000 paper cuts. But here I am. I need a haircut. I have gray hair. I ate cumin in my oatmeal and I got bleach on my pants. And it only has gone from there. But guess what? God's going to have the victory because I refuse to allow Satan to have a triumph over me. So that is Living Out Loud. I have no idea what time it is. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the show. Thank you for being flexible with me today. And I will see you next week.